Hi, everybody. Welcome to a very special Am I the Asshole podcast. I'm joined by a special guest today, comedian, tweeter extraordinaire, New Yorker, Arielle Dundas. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
No, it's my pleasure. So it's funny because you're one of these people that I know without knowing. It's just like, I don't even know if I've met you, and we're on social media. I love your tweets. I love your Instas, and then you asked to do the show and I was like, come do the show. So it's great to have you on.
Yeah, it's been a weird year, especially because I moved to New York in January of 2020. So it's so hard for me to remember who I've met and who I haven't met. But I'm pretty sure we haven't met in real life.
I have entire friendships where I'm like, how do I know this motherfucker? I have no idea. I don't know if I even hate this person. I just know who they are. And I'm like, hello, yes, good to see you, I suppose. I'm not sure if I don't like you. So, I mean, this is crazy. So you moved here January before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, it was I mean, especially because I moved to New York specifically to pursue live stand-up. So yeah, it hasn't been like the best timing of all time.
You didn't move here to pursue Zoom stand-up.
I did not move.
the famous and classical, the original art form of Zoom stand-up comedy. The caveman did it on Zoom, people.
Location is very important for Zoom stand-up.
Yeah.
You can only do that in New York.
So we were laughing because, I like put out this tweet and I basically said, I'm looking to book a lot of guests for the show. And then you volunteered. And I was honestly slightly just like, this girl seems really young, and I'm a little bit of an ageist, I suppose. And I was like, this girl's like 22. And then I was looking at your tweets and you're totally not 22.
No.
I can't. Can I say how old you are? I mean, you said on Twitter, right?
I'm 34.
And you're as funny as a 34. I was like, this 22-year-old has some great jokes. So maybe the insight is there.
Yeah. I mean, no, I'll take it. Age is such a weird thing. I think it's I was living in Amsterdam before, and I think Americans pay like a lot more attention to age than Europeans.
Interesting.
I don't know. I think.
Would you go far with that? Like, would you say if you saw, a 30-year-old guy dating a 20-year-old in Europe, would you sort of be like, no, he's probably not a pervert. That's just flies here.
I mean, I would probably have a problem with it, but I don't know if I mean, I do have a friend who was living with a couple, and he was 30 and she was 19, and I had a problem with it. I mean, like, a problem with it. I'm not the police. I can't do anything. I thought it was weird, but other people did not so much think it was weird.
Well, it's not really weird when you're like, oh, well, of course he wants to do that. He's sick. That's not weird. Of course a sick person would want to do that. That's totally normal for a sick. Yeah, I mean, we go back and forth on this. Some people push back, because look, I mean, it's a consensual relationship and they are adults,
right. I mean, I will say recently Lucy Hale from Pretty Little Liars was seen on a date with Skeet Ulrich.
I don't know these people. I do love I love Big Little Lies, which is a show that I confused with the show that you just said. So I know nothing about your it's completely irrelevant to this.
I mean,
Go on.
I also don't know. I think I got really into Riverdale for like a hot second, and he's one of the parents on Riverdale. Anyway, he's probably in his late 50s and she's in her early 30s, and people were upset about it. And I'm like, she's 31 years old. She can do whatever the hell. You know what I mean? Like, at a certain point, a grown-up is a grown-up.
That's a grown-ass woman.
Yeah.
Once you're 30, it's like, look, if you're 30 and you want to date a 70-year-old, you do what you want to do,
Yeah, for sure.
It's just 20. 20 is a kiddo, you know what I mean?
So young. I think about Princess Diana, like, turned 20 the week before she got married.
Oh my God.
And everybody thought it was like so beautiful and romantic. And I don't, 20 is like a child, I think, really, at the end of the day. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little weird, but that's interesting. So how else did you see this manifest in Europe that age is just less of a
Well,
thing,
I
just
think
not coming out? Yeah.
I think in Europe, specifically the Netherlands, I think there are
Hmm.
differences. But this is also probably true more generally. I think Americans are very concerned about results. Achieving things by a certain age is very important. Like you have those 30 under 30 lists. Whereas, yeah, in the Netherlands, it's like much more. I mean, it's much more a culture of. They say this a lot. This is an expression Dutch people say a lot. They'll say Americans live to work, Dutch people work to live. I will also say, like in the Netherlands, you have a social safety net. So, like maybe it's less about a cultural, like a
Right.
workaholism, and more about a need to survive.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I've heard something similar to that, that, you know, in the United States, anytime someone is like, "Hey, you know, we should totally have universal health care," everyone just starts screaming socialism and da 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 da. But in Europe, entrenched wealth is just so entrenched. Like rich people have just been rich forever that they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yes, we totally have. The rich people have been fucking us for like centuries, and we totally have to do so." So it's like that's the reason that you have so much
Yeah.
more, you know, like
Yeah.
social systems like that, social safety
I think
nets.
it's also the rest of Europe, like Western Europe was much closer, like physically to the Soviet Union. And so, like, as a
Mm.
way to, like, I think the threat, the way they handled the threat of, like, a workers' revolution was to give concessions to workers a lot of times, too.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Now, you lived in Amsterdam, which is a
Hmm.
city
Hmm.
in the Netherlands.
Yes.
And the Netherlands is the name of the country, but Holland, what is Holland? I
Okay.
know there's a fucking trick here.
so there are so the Netherlands is there are like 11 provinces. Two of the provinces are called North Holland and South Holland. And when Dutch people were like conquering the world, like because during colonialism and everything,
They had their run, right? Because
yeah,
it was New Amsterdam. New York was New
yeah,
Amsterdam back in the
exactly.
day.
And yeah, around that time, the relationship of the provinces, like it was a much looser federation at the time.
Hmm.
And the two provinces of North Holland and South Holland were like the richest ones. And they were the ones like funding all of the colonialism. So that's why, like, abroad, people often think of it as Holland.
Hmm.
Dutch people get upset about it, but then also at like sporting events, they'll say a hop Holland hop. Although, like, officially, the Dutch government is trying to get them to not say that anymore. I don't know. Like,
Wild.
they're not like legally outlawing it or anything, but they're like trying to get people to just say "Go Nederland." I think I don't know. I don't even know what we're supposed to say instead. But yeah, so that's why Holland. And Amsterdam is in North Holland, and then Rotterdam, which is the second biggest city, is in South Holland.
God. So Holland, these are states or provinces, you
Basically,
said?
they're provinces. Like
Okay.
they have, there's a much more centralized government. I mean, like the Netherlands is about the whole country is probably about the size of an average American state.
Right. It's like 20 million people, right? It's not big.
Yeah, yeah, and very densely populated, so not like a whole lot of land.
I visited Amsterdam. I thought it was probably the most beautiful city I'd ever seen. I don't know if I'm sure most of the listeners know, but it is a city that is like a series of, at least in the center, a series of kind of concentric canals. So it's really stunning, very beautiful. And then obviously everyone knows the hits of Amsterdam, which is legalized or decriminalized. I mean, it really is kind of legalized, right?
Right. Yeah.
Marijuana, mushrooms, and then prostitution, the
Hmm.
famous red light district. But let me ask this. This is something that I went to Amsterdam and I saw all these things, and I took a weed brownie and I freaked the fuck out and I thought about flying home because I thought I was missing work and I was having a panic attack. But there's one thing I think about that happened to me in Amsterdam, and it hasn't left me. It was about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, beautiful day. We're walking around, and there's a little park, like a little kind of park that's in, in between the little like roads, like a real small park. And there was a glass of milk just sitting there. Somebody left a glass of milk at the park, and I never seen anything like that in my life in New York City. Never. What the fuck is that culture?
I don't know if that's. I mean, I guess.
What is that?
I don't know if that's like a common thing, specifically milk, but I will say Amsterdam is like a pretty safe city. Like I have ADHD, so I am like forever losing my phone and wallet. And usually if you leave them places in Amsterdam and you come back, they will still be there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was struck. This goes back to the social safety net. I don't think I saw any homeless people. I don't think I saw any panhandlers. And it was like, I was like, this is a little weird. Like, where are they? Did they what's going on? But is that just because of the safety nets and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, there are homeless people, but there are far fewer of them, and they are considerably better taken care of. But they do exist, and I do think I mean, I don't know. The problem was kind of growing when I was about to leave, but nowhere near like American or like British
Interesting.
levels. Yeah.
There is one final Amsterdam take. I'm sorry. I'm running through all this Amsterdam material because there's never any reason for me to bring it up. But the other take I have is that I don't think Van Gogh is a good painter.
Oh.
For you guys who don't know, there's a huge there's like two big attractions in Amsterdam. I mean, attraction is probably not the best word for the first one, which is the Anne Frank house. And then the second, I think, is the Van Gogh Museum. And I think Van Gogh was a shitty artist. I don't think he was very talented. I don't think he had a good grasp of really any aspect of art. But he made a lot of art, and I give him credit for. He was prolific, and this cannot be refuted. But I think those sunflowers, I don't think they look good. I mean, is there anything here? Am I an asshole? Am I the asshole on this?
I don't know if you can be an asshole for having a subjective opinion, but I do think you're wrong.
That's a good question. You think I'm wrong? Okay.
I don't know. I find his work very moving. I mean, sunflowers is kind of boring, and
okay, great. If you can meet me there, I can live. I can sleep at night. It's boring. Fine, I can live with that.
Okay, but I like. I think it's called his like blue period. I mean, I don't know. We know each other from Twitter, so it's probably not shocking that I have some depression issues. Yeah. I find like he has a work called The Potato Eaters that I could just like. I mean, if you can't figure out what that's a painting of, I don't know. It's people eating potatoes.
Okay, guys. So if you don't know The Potato Eaters, it's five people sitting at a table. It's five really ugly people, and I say that with intent, by the way.
No, I mean that's yes, that's accurate.
Because, listen, this is another critique of Van Gogh. This is also what made me turn on him. I think I already wasn't really a fan. I always thought Starry Night was overhyped. It was just, I don't think it slaps the way people act like it. I've always thought the sunflowers were straight up bad. The Potato Eaters is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to remember they go, oh, well, Vincent van Gogh was basically, he was bougie. He was in the bougie class. He wasn't actually wealthy, but he was in the bougie kind of class. And in this time, it was literally thought that the peasants, that the people, who lived in the rural areas were closer to the earth, which is just rich people talk for animals. They really thought the poor people were animals. So that is what my recollection is of the Potato Eaters, that he was depicting the pathetic peasants.
Yeah, I mean, now you're making me rethink.
Yes, come to my side.
I mean, I can't come all the way, but I can see there's some romanticization of poverty in the painting that I don't know why I've never really like thought of that before, but like that is kind of obvious. And I mean, his story is so, the fact that he like never sold a painting during his lifetime And
That's likable. That is likable.
yeah,
I got to give him credit
yeah.
there. Well, that's the Amsterdam Vincent Van Gogh part of the show, guys. Let's get into this thing. So I had seen a tweet you wrote about being fat, which, you know, I'm a little hesitant to even say out loud, but you have some really funny tweets. You wrote, look, you can say whatever the fuck you want, but when you make fun of people for being fat, you hurt my feelings, which I
Yeah.
love. So I could be making fun of someone else for being fat, and that would hurt even if it's not directed at you. That's right.
So I'm very into like sort of fat liberation movements, which we could maybe talk
That's
about.
very. Is this a violent? This is the violent side. It's like the Irish Republican Army.
I mean, it's like people like the softer side would be like body positivity,
right?
which
Fat
is
liberation. Are you all being kept? What's going on?
no, but like the idea is that, for example, body positivity is all about like loving yourself, and that's valuable, but also like fat people experience real discrimination, and whether or not we love ourselves, like it doesn't change the fact that like if we go to the doctor for any reason, they will tell us it's because we need to lose weight, even if that's not what is actually going on. Yeah, so like, but like within those circles, there's like a reclaiming of the word fat because, so that's why I use it. I'm also, I don't really want to get this deep into it, but I am what would be known as like a small fat. So I experience, like, I don't want to claim to speak for every fat person. And the reason why that distinction matters is that like relative to people who are fatter than me, I still have like a lot of privilege. But yeah, no, I think that I can't remember who they were insulting at the time, but like a lot of well-meaning people, when they're mad at, I don't know, like a Republican who is fat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like one of the first things they'll go for is their weight. And it's like,
absolutely.
Again, you can say whatever the fuck you want, but like, when you're saying fatness is bad, you're also like associating me with that person, and like, I don't know, their evilness. I can't even remember. I don't even remember who I was. I was probably subtweeting someone at the time.
Well,
yeah.
there's literally a comedian whose entire act, and he kills, by the way, is just making fat jokes about Chris Christie, who I believe is the Republican governor of New Jersey.
Former governor of New Jersey. Yeah.
Former governor of New Jersey. You know, so I definitely am on board. I think, you know, and he is an older gentleman, and he does like, you know, very old school like one-liners. But you know, I think it's it's like one of those things that like it almost seems obvious to read that tweet, but then I'm like, no, that's true. It's like you're taking a shot at someone for how they look, and ultimately, you know, other people who look that way are gonna be offended, and it's a cheap shot. You're not attacking their ideas, you're attacking them personally. It has no relevance, and it's cheap, and like I think it's good. I think it's a good like thing that people need to think about.
Yeah, it can get like, people will be like, oh, well, they associate fatness with like laziness or gluttony. But like at the same time, like if somebody is thin but has like a high metabolism and eats a lot, that's really rewarded, right? So that then it seems like it's not the eating that's the problem, it's what you end up looking like.
Right. It's kind of a false equality thing, because it's like, I mean, there could be any myriad of factors, you know, where it's like, oh, well, metabolism, you know, like I've injured my back from running. If I wasn't running, and I'm fortunate enough that I'm like very lightly injured, or was lightly injured, I can now run again. But I mean, I eat like a crazy person, but like, yeah, if I broke my leg, I would put on weight, you know?
But it's also just like a lot of people can focus on like, again, just because there is a relationship between fat and health, I think, but it's not like you can be fat and healthy and thin and unhealthy. But I think that conversation that can happen sometimes, it doesn't matter if somebody's healthy or not. They're still like a person who deserves respect. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we've gone down these roads a fair amount. And, you know, one insight I've had is like, there's really no reason to tell someone like that they're like eating improperly or that they're fat. It's like, they know, they fucking know. Like you
Right.
don't,
Yeah. And
you're
it,
not bringing them any news.
yeah,
You're
for
not
sure.
generally doing, right? Like,
Yeah, a lot of times people will like use the idea that they could be providing some kind of motivation as like a cover for being a jerk. Basically, we were like,
well, yeah, because it can come from an ego place, right?
right,
Where it's like, I mean, look, who doesn't like to dole out advice? That's the whole, I mean, that's arguably the premise of this entire
right,
podcast.
yeah,
So there is kind of a feel good, kind of like ego driving thing of being like, hey, you know, I think you'd really, if you lost some weight, you'd be a lot happier. Because the underlying message there is that, you know, I'm not in that place, or whoever is giving this message is not in that place. And so that they have some wisdom to offer from their better position. And it's just, yeah, I mean, I think it's just right. Like, you know, people, this is not an awareness issue is really,
yeah, no, yeah, exactly. It's not. We live in a society that's like really obsessed with bodies right now, I think. And I mean, like maybe society has always been. I don't know. But like the idea that somebody wouldn't have like an awareness, like be acutely aware of like how other people related to their bodies. Yeah, it's laughable.
right. It's insulting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean, look, I think it takes a lot of guts to just, you know, be willing to speak on this topic. I asked you if you'd be comfortable going about it.
Yeah. Thank you for
You know, and
asking.
absolutely, and thanks for sharing your insights. AITA for calling out my
Okay.
sister-in-law for only having big boobs because she is fat. Last weekend, my partner and sister-in-law went bra shopping together. My sister-in-law is a very, very large girl. She's around 5 feet and 150 kilograms. Okay, let's convert that to, I just saw this joke on Reddit, freedom units. That is 330 pounds. She always talks about her weight. That's what OP says. And none of her current bras fit her anymore. So she asked if my girlfriend could help her out in finding something for her size that would fit. My GF was pleased to help her, so she took some time out of her day to take my sister-in-law shopping for some new bras. My GF is a small girl, around 4'8" and 45 kilograms.
Short
This is
family.
relevant. 4'8"? That is, we want to talk about that. Like, that, you don't even need to buy a seat on a plane. You can just sit in the little, what do they call that? The glove compartment there. 45 kilograms is 100 pounds. This is a very small person.
Yeah.
So they finally find some bras that fit my sister-in-law. And while bra shopping, my GF decides to buy some new bras as she found a few she really loved. I then came to pick them both up after shopping. Buses and parking is terrible here. Okay. I don't know if that's relevant, really. During the drive home, my sister-in-law is boasting about her massive boobs and asked my GF what her boob size was. No, my GF is a small girl, and her boobs are in proportion for her body. But you know how girls can be, and like most girls, my GF is also self-conscious at times about her smaller boobs. Anyways, my GF tells my sister-in-law her size, and my sister-in-law yells out laughing, haha, you totally have no tits. I feel sorry for your boyfriend for having a flat-chested girlfriend. Let's just say my girlfriend was upset. I was pissed. This is where I could have been the asshole for letting my sister-in-law then know that the only reason her boobs have grown so much is because of her recent weight gain over the last few months. And that is nothing to be boasting about. I then reassured my GF that her boobs are perfect and I wouldn't want her gaining a lot of weight just to have some so-called big tits. Well, as you can imagine, my sister-in-law was pissed at me. When we got back home, she left and hasn't talked to me or my girlfriend since. AITA.
Yeah, there's a lot of different body stuff going on in this one.
Absolutely. I mean, one thing I have learned doing this is that, you know, I'm very grateful to be a man. It's a constant sort of assault on women that seems not, it doesn't matter. You could be the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. You could be 95 years old. You have body issues. Like, it's just torture being a woman. That's,
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's like the rules are always changing about what your body should, like when I was growing up, it was about being like a stick with huge breasts. And now it's about having a tiny waist and a huge ass and huge breasts. It seems to be the like current, I don't know, preference. But like even women who fit that mold think that they're Yeah, there's just a lot going on here. As a bigger woman with big breasts, I do think sometimes you can like that can be like the fact that you get big breasts because you're fatter does mean like there is some sort of solace in that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But like at the same time, you shouldn't use that solace to like make other women feel bad about their bodies. Yeah. So like the idea like haha, why would your that seems a little harsh to say the least to say that to a family member. Like
Very attacking, kind of out of nowhere, right?
right,
Girlfriend kind of helped her. They went on the shopping day together,
right,
and then all of a sudden she feels the need to really assert, like, you totally have no tits. I feel sorry for your boyfriend.
right,
It's so out of nowhere. It's so inappropriate. It's kind of so
right,
unchecked that to me, it's obvious what the root of that is, which is insecurity.
right, for sure.
I think one thing I've learned, and it's a rule that I mostly follow, is like, I don't touch how attractive women are except to say like they're tens. Like I just don't even touch it. Like that's all I'll really say. It's like you're a 10, whatever. Like just anything else will get me in trouble.
I like that as a policy. The only thing I'll say about a woman is that she's a 10. I like it. I think that more people should follow that.
It's a safe route to go, It's like, why say
Yeah.
anything else? I don't that said, look, I think it is a tough world out there for obese people for all the reasons we've talked about. I think being an obese woman is especially tough given how, so many women are affected by looks culture, the male gaze, etc. So I guess even though I think that her randomly attacking the smaller woman here, the GF, is fucked up, I don't love that boyfriend then took a kind of equal shot at her. I mean, to be
Right.
trite, two wrongs don't make a right, right? It's like,
Yeah,
did you
no, for
really,
sure.
I
Yeah.
guess I'd feel more comfortable if he had simply said, I think the reason you're saying that is because you're insecure about your body or just something
Right.
like that. What do you
Or even
think?
I think yeah, I mean I don't know if I had been in his position that I would be as magnanimous as I am suggesting he should be, but
Sure. Sure.
but like I think the real move is to be like, well, lots of men like lots of different kinds of bodies, and I really like my girlfriend's body, and she has like, you know what I mean, to just like
Right.
really make it about your relationship to your girlfriend's body. I mean, it's hard because like it can be easier to, if like somebody's attacking you, it can be almost easier to be kind than if somebody is attacking someone you love. Like I relate. I can relate to maybe lashing out right away. Although I don't think that's the right thing to do.
Right. Right. I think it's tough. Nephalabita Eternal writes NTA, don't throw mud if you don't want to get dirty. So they're saying, essentially she started it. So that's it.
Yeah, I mean that's very like playground rules, isn't it? Like,
Right.
well,
Right.
this adult said something bad, so why wouldn't so you could say whatever you want? Like, and again, it's so hard to have a body sometimes that like
I love this comment. Robot Worgen wrote, everyone sucks here. Someone being horribly critical of someone else's body is not a reason to criticize their body in return. The message you send when you do that is, well, your body isn't good enough either. You're buying into the same crap and you're not criticizing the real ugliness, which is that person's behavior.
right. I mean, it is really like, yeah, like you said, two wrongs don't make a right. It is really like the problem is not the content of what she's saying. The problem isn't saying you have small breasts. It's the idea that like your girlfriend's worth comes from how her body looks, and that it needs to like conform to a particular standard, whatever that standard may be, and to then like flip it around and be like, well, you think the standard is this, but it is big breasts, but actually it's something else. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Kinda. I mean, I guess I just feel like, with my policy, and I feel like it's kind of true across the board. Like, I have a mole on my face. I have moles or whatever. Or my hair looks like shit. So, like, is there really any reason to call out something, especially something that's kind of like not, obviously, if you got a booger in your nose, like, let me know. Got a bat in the cave. Let's clear that puppy out, baby. But, otherwise, it's kind of like, it's just an egg. Why are you bringing that person down? So like I would push back and say that even had she just remarked, well, your breasts are rather small, I would be like, watch out. There's really no reason to like describe. So, I mean, obviously they're bra shopping for her. She's like, okay, your breasts are on the small side, so we need to look for B. Yeah, obviously. But like in this
she was clearly like trying to insult her.
Yeah, it was a put down,
Yeah. No, and it clearly came from insecurities. And I mean, I'm sure, again, this is like not an excuse. This is like an explanation, but also like trying on clothes can be very traumatic and like bring all that sort of stuff up. So I can see being upset about it and trying to overcompensate. But another thing, again, this is an explanation, not an excuse, but like, I think sometimes if you are existing in a bigger body, you can start to believe that like everybody who is like thin or slim, like that their problems, like they don't have problems or they don't have body issues. So you can like think like, oh, it'll be fine to tell my sister that I feel sorry for her boyfriend. I know it's so terrible. It's such a terrible thing to say.
No, I think you're onto something. It's much bigger than what you're talking about too. It's not. Because you know what it is? It's sort of like, here, it's the constant comparison. Comparison is the thief of joy, as they love to say. I think you're onto something because I've had friends kind of like take shots at me. I've had people I know take shots at me, because like I'm more successful than them on social media. Of course, I'm fucking no one on social media, but to them, I might be bigger, or whatever. And so they'll say things like, oh, that video wasn't good or whatever. And like say something that's like, I'm like, oh, that actually deeply hurts me. But there's this logic that goes to your head like, oh, well, they're doing better than me, so I can't hurt them. And it's like, oh no, you very well absolutely can.
Yeah, no, for sure. I relate to that example. But yeah, no, exactly. You think like, oh, well, like thin people don't have like, problems with their body. And yeah, they do, because again, our society has impossible standards. But again, that's an explanation. I don't think that excuses her behavior.
Well, I think it's good. I mean, I the other side of that coin, which I see, and I love this phrase you use, by the way, which is, existing in a large body. Like, I love it because it kind of just touches on, I think for one, and I'm not claiming that I'm above this at all, because I'm definitely vain as fuck and shallow as fuck. But like, I do think like if you have any kind of, insecurity or whatever, and it's like, it's there, it's like really I think a big step is to just not bring it up and not be fixated on it, because it does lead you to make comments like this and to really just be confident and be like, look, this is who I am. Like, it is what it is, and own it. I think I do think it's true that like confidence is very sexy. It doesn't mean that confidence will give you anything. You're, like the standard of beauty is a standard of beauty. And I'm not saying that justifies it, but I just think on a personal level, it's like, you might as well just embrace who you are, because, why not?
Yeah, for sure. And it just, I think you can, your struggles can like sort of blind you to the struggles that other people have.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's a great insight. And a person who's really struggling can be particularly blind. Yes, for sure. I don't know if this is the perfect example, but like, when I know that when I'm like the most depressed, I am just so boring. And I don't know why I'm thinking this, but like, because like all you can think of is yourself. Yeah, I don't really know where it's going. No, that's on point. They've done studies. People who are very depressed use the word I disproportionately. It's it is, it's kind of a coarse way to put it, but it's self-centered. Depression can be very self-centered. I mean, there's a whole model of addiction, and that's another way of looking at this that we can go with. it's always like you pointed out, this results oriented thing of like, oh, well, it's the body, but is really that's just the result is like, I think a component of obesity and the obesity problem in America is maybe better framed as the food addiction problem.
Right. Which, yeah, I mean, is definitely a very real thing. Again, I don't want to claim that like everybody who's fat has a food addiction, but I do think food addiction is real and like can be. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words, but also like one thing that is not helpful for addiction really is a shame-based approach, right?
Right.
Like if somebody is addicted to heroin, if you tell them like you're a bad person because you're addicted to heroin, I don't think like that's going to help anybody stop being addicted to heroin, right? So this like also gets into the whether or not fat shaming is like helpful in terms of like helping people create healthier relationships to food. Again, you can be fat and have a healthy relationship with food. I'm just saying that you can also be fat and have an unhealthy relationship with food.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I think there's a whole ton of situations that we've gone into before about confronting people about their weight and this and that. And, as I discussed earlier, it's sort of moving beyond like alerting them, which is like condescending. And having more of like, because like, look, like all addictions, if that is in fact what it is, it's not about food. It's not about heroin. That's just the manifestation of something deeper. So it's sort of like coming at it from that angle. But we're going off on a course, and I actually really liked going off on this course. But I think we've pretty much settled on this. Right. I honestly think that I understand what boyfriend did because he was defending his sister-in-law, and all women have issues with like beauty standards and stuff like that. And she was basically randomly attacked after doing something that, as you pointed out, and I actually wanted to make this point. You said that being obese and trying out clothes can be somewhat traumatic. Maybe that's an overstatement. You meant difficult, emotionally trying, certainly.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And because of that, vulnerable, absolutely. And because of that, though, that actually made me like sister-in-law even more. I was like, this is like really a kind of a great kindness, like for her to go and like go through this with her, assuming that what you said is generally true, that it is kind of a trying and emotional process.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, while I like understand where both people are coming from, meaning the OP and sister-in-laws that are coming from, I think they're both the asshole. I don't think like either thing is like really okay to do.
Right. I think boyfriend is maybe slightly less the asshole because what he did came as an impulsive response to his girlfriend being attacked. But nonetheless, I agree. I think we agree ultimately. AITA for calling out my sister-in-law for only having big boobs because she is fat. We agree. Everyone sucks here.
Everyone sucks here. That's the phrase. Yeah.
Arielle, thank you so much for joining me. This has been very fun, very insightful. You've taught me a lot. I really appreciate you coming on the show. Tell these people where they can find you.
I'm all over social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, primarily, almost exclusively. My name is just at Arielle Dundas on all of those sites.
ARIELLEDUNDAS. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And we'll throw that in the description below. Guys, please rate, review, and subscribe. Follow Arielle on social media, and we'll see you next time.
Great. Thank you.